record to this computer. Okay, very good. Alrighty, so I'm going to share my screen again, just so I have that ready to go and not my email. This is the one I want. Yep. Okay. So welcome to our May TechByte, guys. We have, let me drop that hand too, I think. Lower hand. Okay. So last month, you may recall if you were here, we did a little bit about Harmony Connect. In that one, we talked exclusively about the what we call our remote access portion of Harmony Connect, where we demonstrated how we can allow users to access corporate applications, like such as RDP and SQL servers and certain HTTPS type servers, things like that, and offer only that access. Today, we're going to get into the other half, so to speak, of Harmony Connect, which is called Harmony Connect Internet Access. The concept today that I want you to really follow, and I think once you kind of think of it, I found that when I thought of it this way, it was easier for me to really understand. Internet access is essentially firewall as a service, right? What happens is, and I had a drawing that I wanted to show, and I kind of lost it this morning, of course. But what happens with firewall as a service is essentially you connect to a firewall that we have out in the cloud with your your data center, and then you connect also with either our client for remote users, like on their laptops, or you can connect a branch office, including when it's using SD-WAN. And you have firewall, firewall level, the great protection that checkpoint firewalls have always afforded. You have that level of protection anywhere you go, on any user, on any device, pretty much anywhere. So that's the concept here. And so what I was going to show you today, and I'm going to hide the meeting controls. Hide the meeting controls. Very good. I was going to show you today is a really quick demo to understand. This is the right one, right? Yes, this is the one. I was going to show you how the internet protection works. So first thing I'm going to do, this is a demo machine here. First thing I'm going to do is suspend this client. You see the little client here. And after a second, it turns the security off. Okay. And I want to show you what this machine looks like when it's not protected by Harmony. So first things first, you can see I can go to a gambling website as an example, right? No problems there. I also have this thing, I'm not sure if everybody's aware of it, but Checkpoint has these like self-tests, and this one's called CP Check Me. I can run the network one. And as you'll see, once it starts, because this machine has essentially no protection on it, it's not doing very well in this test. Okay, so essentially it failed every test. So as we can see, this machine has no protection, right? When we turn this on, I'll show the overview and I will reactivate and let it connect. It takes a second. And again, what it's doing is, for this portion, it is simply building a tunnel, an IPsec or a GRE tunnel, via this client to a firewall we have out in the cloud, right? And you set the policy on this firewall, which I'll show you in just a moment. Okay, we are connected. So now, if we try to go to that same gambling website, the page is blocked, right? This security policy does not allow the gambling category, and the user is prompted with this user check message, we call them. And you can customize any of these messages. And the other thing, if we go back to check me and run this test, again, the network test, check security. And as you can see, we're doing better so far. So that's the demonstration of the security being on versus off. Obviously, that's only a little piece of what we're going to see here. But any questions on what we've seen so far, that the machine was very unprotected without when the client was disabled, and then now the network access is secured, or the internet access, I should say, is secured, and also URL filtering is enforced. Just going to hold 1 second in case there's any questions so far. I don't see any yet. And I get that there probably won't be, so that makes sense. Okay, so now let's move over to, so we saw how it works, but let's see the console itself. So this is the Harmony Connect console. If you're not familiar with the Infinity portal, this is the Checkpoint Infinity portal, where we essentially can manage pretty much every Checkpoint product. All the Harmony ones are on the right here, and again, we are in Connect today. Connect, again, can secure your corporate applications, which we discussed last month, and we can certainly discuss it another time. And your remote users via that client we just saw, and also your branch offices, which I'm going to dive deeper into as we go here. But essentially what you end up having once you install this client is, you have your users here. You can install through, manually, right? You can just give the client out, people install it. You can install through group policy. You can also leverage directory services like Active Directory, other LDAP services, and you'll build a list of users, and they'll be in groups, right? And then all you need to do, and this part I think is going to look familiar to our firewall customers, is you build a policy, right, for their internet access. As you can see, this one has a bunch of specific things it blocked, including that gambling. Where is it? Gambling, which, remember, we went to the gambling site and it allowed it when the client was disabled, but then blocked it when the client was enabled. You can block many different categories. Let's see if I can just show them to you real quick. Yeah, so here's a long list, 114 categories and over 500 applications. And I expect both of these lists, but especially the applications, will grow, because on the on-prem firewalls today, we have a even longer list. But yeah, you can block the applications, block your categories, block specific websites, and then you have your ability to curb your users' internet access. And the idea here is, a SASE approach, right? To give your user the same level of security, the same experience, whether they be on premise or at a branch office or at their house or traveling somewhere in a hotel, right? That's the idea. You can again, we also have the threat prevention, the same threat prevention that we have on our localized firewalls. And this is the part that really made that check me, that test that we did. This is the part that did all the blocking that stuff. I'll show you quickly logs. We can see traffic logs. A little slow here. It was actually a little slow yesterday when I was practicing for this too. But what you'll come to see eventually here is that we have the same, essentially the same logging as we might have on premise. Uh, Detailed logs about source, destination, username, what action that we picked up on, what did, did we block it? Did we detect it? Did we allow it? There's the same level of granularity that you might get on prem. This doesn't want to load today, of course. There's also a lot of reporting you can do, and there's like a cyber attack view. Well, it's officially a demo now. It doesn't even want to load the logs. Uh, Very weird. But you would see here in this view again, counts on what happened, how many machines saw some malicious thing, what were the malicious files. That test I ran should be coming up as some events here. In fact, let me see if I can change the time filter. Maybe that will help. Any questions while we're waiting for this to load up? Any questions on the concept here about internet access and firewall as a service, specifically for the users? We're going to move over to the branch offices in a second. And I'm looking at the chat and the Q&A if there's anything there. Okay. Oh, I got one. Okay. So the question is, you saw me toggle that client on that virtual machine, and I just turned it on and off locally. Can you lock the client so it doesn't toggle like that? And the answer is yes. Yes, you can set the clients so that they can't be toggled locally. If you noticed, the one that I had, actually it's back on, but what you might have noticed is when I shut the security off here, I'll do it again. It tells you that this one will automatically reactivate. And this is the default setting. It will actually, it automatically reactivates after a certain time. Okay, so no other questions here so far. This doesn't seem to want to load, which is kind of weird. So the other half, right? So we talked about the users, branch offices. Harmony Connect is built to accept connections from really any device that will establish a GRE or IPsec tunnel, which means that for the most part, you probably have something at your branch offices or at your HQ and at your data center that can already broker this access, like a router, for example. If you have a local firewall, whether it be checkpoint or otherwise, that also will connect as long as it can make either a GRE or IPsec tunnel. The other thing we have in here, and this is cool, is we have our integrations with a wide variety of hardware vendors and SD-WAN vendors, right? Silver Peak, VeloCloud, Cisco's SD-WAN, Viptela, CloudGenix, Citrix. So like if you have a Silver Peak, because a lot of customers are replacing their MPLS lines with SD-WAN today. If you had Silver Peak, for example, we have this native integration with them. When you click next, it feeds you all the stuff you got to put in here, and it's like a 1, 2, 3. My spelling is terrible. All you do is establish your subnets that are inside your branch. There we go. And as you can see, it's pretty quick to set this up, and you can set a branch office or a data center to connect to Harmony, and it's off and running. And then you can set policy based around your branches and your uh, data centers. When you change it in here, you can see that you can change it by a network list, and the subnets that you have set in your data centers or your branch offices, you use them as a source. Also, this product also offers SSL inspection, same as our firewalls. You can set that up for deeper viewing, deeper intelligence on what's going on. And again, offers the identity awareness if you could hook it to an identity provider. Any questions on that part so far? I'm looking at the chat and the Q&A. It's okay so far. And if we don't have questions, I'll show you one last thing that I had wanted to show you on the last session, in our last session, that was about the remote access that I just didn't have time for. Looks like we're okay on questions. Okay. Oh, wait, got one. Chat. How is this different than Harmony Endpoint? Okay, so the question is, how is this different than Harmony Endpoint, which is an excellent question. Harmony Endpoint is a traditional, well, it is the idea is a traditional endpoint client. You would say it competes with your CrowdStrike, with your McAfee, with your Symantec, or whoever, right? It offers, the endpoint offers host-based firewall, host-based antivirus. It offers, the next gen stuff, threat prevention, the sandboxing. It also offers like full disk encryption and USB port protection and things like that. So that the Harmony endpoint client is to secure the endpoint, right? Regardless of what it's doing, right? It's not so much about internet access or VPN, security going backwards. The Connect client, the one we're talking about today, and the one we saw, the Connect client is very small because all it does is broker connection back to a firewall we have out on the cloud. And then you have firewall network level protections. So we have deep packet inspection, and we're looking at, we're using thorough IPS that we use, and things like that. So that's kind of the difference. They do have overlap, which is why when we talk about Harmony, a lot of times we can't help it but to start talking about the whole Harmony suite, right? Because it's a zero trust architecture. It's SASE, if you've heard of it, secure access service edge, right? The different parts of Harmony tend to overlap a little bit because together they make a fully secure environment for a customer or for a user, regardless of what machine they're on, regardless of where they are, so on and so forth. Does that kind of help answer that question? Okay. Yes, is it by user or device? So Harmony Connect and Harmony Endpoint are by device. Each client is a license. Connect, important thing about Connect, I believe, last time I checked, I could check again. Last time I checked, there is a 50 user minimum for Connect. And the reason for that is because we have this infrastructure that we put out for you. It's actually backed on AWS currently. And so, there is a cost associated with that firewall out there on AWS. So they do require a 50 user minimum. The nice thing about that is that you have the same uptime as guaranteed by AWS, which, I don't know what it is now, but I'm sure it's, 99.9999% guaranteed uptime. and it offers the redundancy, right? So we have redundancy so that if you're, so that you won't have any sort of issues with that. Good questions. Okay. The other thing that I'll just point out, and I don't know if I really have time to, well, I guess I have time to demo it enough. The other thing that Harmony can do, and this is very much related to our remote access we discussed last month. Harmony that will do VPN as a service, right? Utilizing that firewall out in the cloud. If you put a small Docker, a small Linux machine that uses Docker, you can broker VPN access, right? Which is really cool. And actually, I'll show you real quick. Just looking at my cookbook here. 14. So this server I'm trying to connect to is a server that's in this cloud environment. It's not going to connect because I disconnected Harmony. You can also see like DB. I always wonder if it's dbeaver or DB Beaver. I don't know how to say it, but dbeaver. And it might take a second to load on this virtual machine. Let's see. There it goes. You're going to see that this also can't connect. No, we're not going to upgrade. You see it's trying to connect. It's going to go a little ways and then it's going to fail. Yep, see there's that failed message. Now we activate the Harmony client. It's going to establish our VPN as a service, right? Via that firewall and that Docker that we were talking about. And refresh this. Refresh. There we go. Refresh. There we go. And it's in, right? dbeaver's in. If you see the putty failed, if we try again with putty, was it 10.128.0.14? There we go. And I'm in. So as you can see, I know this was a very quick demo of this part, but the Harmony remote access is able to broker VPN as a service. Any questions on that? And I know we're like right up at the hour here, so I do apologize for running slightly long. Chats. Okay, all set. Okay, and thank you. Okay, so if there's no questions or if you think of one later, feel free to email me, reach out. I very much appreciate everybody coming to this session, as I always do. And I'll have this up and posted to the YouTube shortly. So thank you very much, guys.